The best experiences always leave you wanting more, and the gaming world is always ready to provide ever more content. Sometimes, even when nobody wanted it. Mercifully, Command & Conquer 4 was so terrible that even EA showed restraint and didn't give us another helping of crap. So today, there's only 7 entries as we take a look at the Command & Conquer expansions. Obviously, the quality of the base game is going to be a factor in what makes these expansions good or not. So I'm going to try and focus on what's new and how these expansions develop and enhance the player experience. With that said, I'm Strat Tom, and this is every Command & Conquer expansion ranked from worst to best. Number 7. Red Alert 3 Uprising. The most recent entry takes last place on our list. Uprising gives us some new campaign missions for a game that wasn't all that great to begin with. The main focus of the expansion is the missions where you play as Yuriko, a Japanese teenage girl with psychic powers. A strange mix of Yuri and 11 from Stranger Things, the Yuriko missions are tedious. The overpowered psychic is a little interesting for the first 5 minutes maybe, but it soon gets repetitive. In addition to this is challenge mode, which is, frankly, an insult to its namesake that is coming later. More celebrity cameos are brought into the Red Alert experience, with 2000's Australian pop star Holly Valance and a certain disgraced wrestler, as if that narrows it down. None of the performances come close to the captivatingly absurd fare that we got on offer from the likes of Tim Curry, George Takei and J.K. Simmons in the base game. Uprising is all that is bad about Red Alert 3 without any of the bits that are good. A poor effort all round. Number 6. Command & Conquer Covert Operations. We go from the latest entry to the first. The covert operations are alright, I guess. They honestly strike me as a collection of rejected level ideas from the original game and now simply sold to us at a later date. There's no story per se, just some random missions. I will say that a lot of the covert operations levels do try and push the boat out a little, being a bit more challenging or with an interesting setup that makes them unique. However, ultimately, it is just more of the same. But who could forget that we also get the Jurassic Park inspired dinosaur levels? As someone who cites Jurassic Park as one of his favourite films and a standout cultural touchstone of his childhood, these levels, man, wow, they are bad. It is everything that is both tedious and frustrating about Command & Conquer's non-base building levels, with the dial turned up to 11. Either frustratingly difficult or mind-numbingly boring. Number 5. Red Alert, the Aftermath and Retaliation. Everything that I had to say about the covert operations, you can kind of just repeat here. More levels, a bit different from the base game, but nothing special. The Aftermath and Retaliation gives us a bit more to get our teeth into, with some mild story elements being included, and levels being separated into small groups that take place in the same country, giving some continuity and purpose to what you're doing. A special mention to the fact that here is where we get our first introduction to a character made famous by Red Alert 2, General Carville. The giant ant missions are considerably better than the dinosaur mishaps from the covert ops. Not only are they fun yet challenging, we also get to see a glimpse into the story that could have been. The faction you play as uses a gold coloration, and has a mix of both Allied and Soviet weapons, including the Mammoth tank. This is a clear indication that the victorious Allies had begun the process of morphing into GDI. It's strange to think that if this is the story they'd stuck with, then the Global Defense Initiative's first major enemy was not the Brotherhood of Nod, but rather a bunch of oversized ants. Number 4. Tiberian Sun, Firestorm. Firestorm was the first time the Command & Conquer franchise gave us a new story experience in one of its expansions. Given it was the first time, I can't help but feel that they played it safe and reined in the crazier elements a little. Wait, no. Actually, they did the other thing. They made a proper mental story about GDI and Nod being forced to team up to take on a crazed AI called Cabal that was threatening to destroy them all, but also turned out to be an AI version of Kane who was missing the entire time or something like that. I'm not fully sure what happens in this game. And I have played it a few times. It's basically Terminator, okay? It's Terminator in the Command & Conquer franchise, and it's crazy, and it's pretty great. Like I said, it was mental. While the Red Alert expansions did add a couple of new units, Firestorm went all out on offering new arsenals to counter the fact that all the cyborg-based units had been commandeered by Cabal. While, yes, Firestorm was ultimately just an updated version of Tiberian Sun, and didn't offer loads of new content, it was a great first try at doing an expansion campaign mode, and told a story that, for me, was better and more interesting than the base game. Number 3. Command & Conquer 3, Kane's Wrath. With a story that picks up shortly after Firestorm ends, Kane's Wrath offers a wonderful campaign mode with a fantastic story that is and this is a real word I promise, it's a circumquel to the base game story. What the hell does that mean, you might ask? It means it takes place partly before, partly during, but from another perspective, and partly after the story it follows. Once upon a time, I was an English teacher, and I'm still teaching you all new things. Circumquel, you're welcome. Kane's Wrath story fills in the blanks from how a defeated Nod became resurgent, and adds a new layer to the things that you thought you knew in the CNC3 story. It is pretty fantastic, and it adds new sub-factions to the existing unit rosters, really fleshing out the experience. The GDI Walker mechs from Tiberian Sun make their return in those glorious 2008 graphics. They also added a turn-based world conquest mode. It's okay, but it isn't quite as clever as it thinks it is. Essentially, it just gives a bit of purpose to a series of repetitive skirmish matches. It's okay, but the campaign mode is really what you're here for in Kane's Wrath. Number 2. Red Alert 2, Yuri's Revenge. I know. I thought it'd be number 1 too, but I talked myself out of it. Yuri's Revenge is a truly phenomenal expansion to a truly phenomenal game. The first step towards EA's obsession with adding a third faction to all Command & Conquer games. The story focuses on the base game's most interesting character, Yuri. During the war, Yuri was secretly plotting his own world domination schemes using his nefarious psychic technology. Yuri's Revenge is an exquisite homage to all those weird and wonderful sci-fi B-movies from the 50s and beyond. You just know that they sat and watched a load of them while devising this insane story that makes the already pretty crazy story of Red Alert 2 look tame. How can you tell they watched them, you might ask? Well, Yuri's Revenge aficionados may recognise this line from the 1957 film the brain from the planet Aurus.
Nobody's gonna be able to stop you! Get out! Get out! Get out!
Your feeling of helplessness is your best friend, Savage.
Yuri's Revenge is as amazing a game as its story is crazy. And it would have undoubtedly got the #1 spot if it wasn't for the one glaring omission they made. You can select the Yuri faction in a skirmish mode. The UI is there. All the units have unique voice work done. The faction was there, it was made, and it was ready to be used. Why was there no Yuri campaign? Just imagine how amazing that would have been. Or, if you have no imagination, go watch my video on Mental Omega. Number 1. Command & Conquer Generals 0 Hour. If you remember back to the intro, I talked about how I was judging these games on how much the expansion added to and developed the base game. It's simple. 0 Hour makes what is an already good game amazing. The new campaign mode is excellent, with some of the best generals moments and set pieces coming from the 0 Hour campaign. It tells an engaging story that follows directly on from the end of the first campaign, detailing the GLA's resurgence and their ultimate defeat. What's more, this campaign mode includes something that was sorely lacking from the base game's campaign mode, and that is some video intros. Not done in the traditional Command & Conquer sense of having a general telling you what to do, but rather through news reports. I said in my classic review of Generals that I would have loved the story to be a bit more fleshed out, and these video briefings do that somewhat. However, while the campaign mode is good, it's not what we're here for. I mentioned the Red Alert 3 challenge mode earlier, and almost threw up in my mouth a little, comparing that limp effort next to the Generals challenge mode. Some of the best designed levels and missions in any Command & Conquer game, coupled with the most diverse and unique use of sub-factions, make Generals Challenge Mode a game that I just can't help but come back to again and again over 18 years after its initial release. 0 Hour is what an expansion should be. It retains what makes the base game great, but it offers something totally new and exciting and fresh. It takes the base game up another level. What else can you ask for? Thank you so much for watching. If the comments on my other ranked videos tell me anything, it's that we all have a range of opinions and tastes, and I've loved chatting with some of you over there. Let's start a new conversation. Feel free to leave your rankings in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe. I've been Strap Tom, and I'll see you next time.